Nicole. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. It's nice to meet you. How's everything coming along?
Oh, well, it's yeah, just diving right in, and it's so nice to meet you. I have to thank you off the bat that this day by day study schedule has been exactly what I have needed. Like especially in, excuse me, in like this quarantine situation, it's been so helpful having that day to day.
Oh, fantastic. I'm really glad to hear it. Yeah, it sounds like you've been able to make use of it fully given the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So that has been a huge, huge help. And right now just starting week three. So still in logic games, but I found the videos extremely helpful. And I think I'm just mostly concerned that I'm getting close to the point where I start timing the sections. And I think, uh, right, that's probably the biggest concern of mine, just the timing in general. I'm just very slow moving usually.
Sure, I understand. Any particular section where you feel the time constraint gives you an issue?
Well, I haven't really gone into the other two sections yet, but I think just in terms of how I work and I mean, right, yes, I've only been doing a couple weeks of this. And I guess that's just a very brief backstory that, right, um, I think I have more, maybe of like a less traditional background. I graduated from college about 5 years ago and just sort of pivoting now to this new career path. So, right, background in the arts. So this is really like my first time engaging with this material at all. I think, right, compared to a lot of students who have kind of gone into their undergrad with this plan and preparing, on the pre-law path. So um, I think it's right. Also, just a mental game as well of just like this is so new and uh, trying to just right build that confidence moving forward.
I hear you. Yeah, and that's really why I created the plan to break it down every section, every question type. So you're not taking on the entire thing at once. You can build up slowly, working from easy to hard within a given category.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think I was also just curious for your thoughts in general about, right, kind of coming into the LSAT completely new. Right. I know I've read about a lot of students like on your blog, on the podcast, who have who have sort of come to your program uh, retaking it or kind of have exhausted all of these other options and just how helpful it's been. But I think, and right, I'm sure there are many different kinds of students all in between, but yes, as somebody who is this is all so fresh and again just right, it's just right thinking about that moving
Well,
ahead.
no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks do come in having taken it before, having tried a different program before, or they've taken it and they're retaking for a second or a third time even. But I also have you build the foundation from the beginning. And so it
Mm-hmm.
can seem overwhelming because, of course, the LSAT's difficult. There are difficult question types within every section, but you don't have to encounter them before you're ready for them. So,
Mm-hmm.
as you saw with logic games, I'm going from easy to hard within each category: easy
Mm-hmm.
ordering, moderate ordering, difficult ordering, then easy grouping, moderate
Mm-hmm.
grouping, and so on. For logical reasoning, there are on average relatively easier types and harder types,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to deal with the toughest one before you're ready for it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want to dive in, you can also do that and just acknowledge it's going to be hard at first and could take a while for you to get it, but there are methodologies that can break it down for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Right. I think it's again just kind of uh, being patient and um, being mindful in that way. Because I think, right, again, just going back to the timing, I've been so worried about it, and I found, right, in terms of building on the logic game so far, that the questions here and there, where I will, pick a wrong answer. It's interesting to see the parts where I kind of rush through without realizing it. So I'm curious, right, for your process or any other students in terms of uh, becoming maybe, I guess it's just right, just calm enough or used to it enough that uh, like taking the time to build all of the diagrams and inferences in the beginning. Because I think that's sort of been a challenge for me, kind of taking the time to do that without feeling rushed, like I should be rushing through. And then, or on the flip side of that, kind of taking a long time to make sure I'm finding all of these inferences. And then it's like, well, it's been 20 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. And it's possible to really go down the rabbit hole trying to make sure you've laid out everything possible up front. And you can get bogged down doing that. And so if that's your tendency, you want to hold that in check, where maybe you stop after 3 minutes, and whatever you got after 3 minutes, that's what you have going in. Or you may have a more methodical step-by-step approach, not based on time, but based on actions that you take. And so if you could go into every single game saying, okay, well, look at initial paragraph and the rules and decide, okay, what is this quote unquote game type? Is there an ordering component? Is there grouping? Are there both? By rule, you diagram each rule one by one. Maybe you then double check that you diagram it correctly. Maybe you then link the rules together to make some kind of inference if they have a certain nature, like if they're all conditional statements. Process, having it delineated so you're taking the guesswork out and you're taking some of the adrenaline out that can get in the way of you having a smooth, regimented approach.
Yes, I think it's helpful to hear. I think especially, right, just going through the day-to-day of, right, again, sort of being in this quarantine situation where it's so easy to sort of, I think, to be overwhelmed in that, right, when there's like only this time to feel overwhelmed. Not to say it's not always overwhelming, totally is. But still, yes, I think just feeling comfortable enough within it to really take the time to do those things. Because I think I've just felt very scattered in terms of, right, what am I actually taking the time for? Am I taking enough time for it? And just trying to get a feel for the timing overall.
I hear you. Well, also, I mean, you don't need to time yourself before you're ready, and you don't need to take on the entire exam as a whole before you're ready. Yes, there will be on the Flex 3 sections. There will be approximately 75, 76 questions, but you don't have to encounter all of them at once. You can say, okay, well, I'm going to limit what I'm looking at to games. I'm not even going to touch logical reasoning for a little while, if doing so would be overwhelming to me. And I can start with one little individual piece and take one little individual step. And then if you want the exposure, if you're curious, you can take a peek, but you don't even have to look at an entire logical reasoning section. You can look at number 1 and start there and break that down and dissect that one question, the argument there. Once you get into logical reasoning, you'll see in the course, I have plenty of logical reasoning review strategies. I'm breaking down the stimulus, the question stem, the choices, bit by bit, piece by piece.
Yes. No, that's fantastic. I will definitely be making use of those. And I think, right, so that also just made me think of another question I had, and I think I had emailed this early on, which was why I received the study schedule that I did. But yes, so I'm planning on taking the February LSAT Flex. I think I'm going to register later today, and with the hopes of being able to retake in April if I need to. So, right, and I know I've read again on your blog a few times that 3 months is kind of the minimum you recommend. Some students can or have done it in less, but that's typically the minimum. So I think I was just curious for more of your thoughts on, yes, going with the minimum, again, as someone who has not engaged with it before, if that's still, or if you have any new thoughts about that.
Sure. Well, February versus April is interesting because some folks might take February with the goal of still applying this cycle. Is that your thought, or would you apply in the fall?
Well, either way, I would be applying for fall 2021.
Okay, cool. Fantastic.
Yes.
So you'd be applying in the fall of 2021 to start law school fall 2022?
Or no, I'm sorry. I would be applying, I guess, by this spring. I think the deadline is June 2021 for fall 2021.
Okay, so you want to start law school approximately 6 months after the February LSAT?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that's a little bit late in the cycle. I certainly wouldn't I mean, that's already later than I would recommend, just because odds are a little bit lower. There is a little bit less scholarship money available. Just being honest about that, to serve you best there. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but then, so you would then say it would be better to, if I'm taking it in February and maybe even April, to then apply for the winter instead of the fall. I think that a couple of the schools I'm looking to apply to have an accelerated program you can apply to start in the winter term, if that sounds like a better option, perhaps.
Those programs would be unique to a particular school. They're not the default traditional option. So I would contact them and ask for details and ask about it. But typically, on average, applying earlier is better than applying later. This year's a little bit weird with COVID naturally. So applying in February could be okay. But typically, I'd recommend January be the latest that you take the LSAT to apply to start law school less than 1 year later.
I got, that's very interesting. I guess I hadn't read anything related to this yet, or so no, that's extremely helpful. So wait, can you just repeat?
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So taking the LSAT at least a year before law school, that's kind of what you typically see or recommend?
Well, I'm saying it's ideal to take the LSAT no later than 8 months prior to when you would start law school. So if you were taking the LSAT in January of 2021, that would be fine to start law school in the fall of 2021, and you would apply immediately after getting your score back. Taking it in February of 2021 or April of 2021 to start law school that same fall puts you a little bit later in the cycle, which means there's less scholarship money available. Odds are a little bit lower. You might be better off waiting. And I know that nobody ever wants to hear that they would wait, but it might serve you best in the long run.
Absolutely. No, this is hugely helpful. Again, right, I still feel so new to all of this, doing so much research. So yes, no, I definitely appreciate any insight on the timeline. So I think, yeah, I think also just be helpful in terms of, right, I think that's something else I've been thinking about a lot. It's like, yes, all of this very intense studying for the LSAT, but also in terms of getting an application together, a full application, essay, updating resume, all of these other elements that go into it. And right, don't want them to feel rushed or that they're not the best they can be. So, right, actually not rushing into it. It sounds like it would be for the best.
Yeah, as is so often the case. But what are your other obligations between now and February? Because it's possible that if you had the time, maybe you could get ready sufficiently in that time.
That's true. I mean, yes. So again, very long story short, I did working in the arts during COVID, lost my job a few months ago, which was very difficult, happening to lots of people. So similar to many others, taking a lot of time to sort of reevaluate, figure out what is coming next, and landed on this path with a specific area of law in mind. So I've kind of found a connection, a through line basically. So again, there's a lot that I don't know about the process, and have been doing my best to familiarize myself. So, and in terms of your question, yes, so I do have a lot of time right now to be studying, and yes, trying to make the most of it.
Cool. I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, could be the silver lining to being in the arts industry and having a sudden open schedule. So yeah, I mean, you could, if you are able to put in 5-6 hours a day between now and February, it's possible that you could get a fantastic score between now and then over that approximate 3-month period. And so you could just register for February, give it your all, and then see where you're scoring in the lead up to that test date. And if you're not where you want to be, you can pull back and go for April instead potentially. But either way, I'd recommend ideally applying in the fall to start the following year. And you can reach out to schools about specific programs, but they're not the norm.
Okay. No, that's very good to know. I will definitely take another look at all the timelines and see what could be better. And that sounds like that might be the better option. So yes, that's great. And I think I'm trying to think, I had written a couple questions, but I think that you've answered everything. Yes, and I know that you also have a lot of resources available about the LSAT Flex in general. Or I guess just a right. Oh, I don't want to keep you if we're running over.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to address
um,
any last questions there. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, so the last point would just be, right, just I guess your thoughts and other students' feelings about the LSAT Flex in general. Like now that it's been a few months of this and kind of getting the kinks out, if there are any big takeaways in the past few months that this has been implemented.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that overall they have worked out a lot of the kinks. It's not always perfect, but if you're taking February or April, they'll have even more time to work out more kinks. And so hopefully it'll go smoothly. I mean, I would say prep accordingly, meaning do all your work on screen. So use LSAC's Law Hub to take exams in that format and get used to all the stylization there, because it is very different from a book. It's the biggest thing. And then, of course, take your practice tests with those 3 sections, not doing 4 or 5.
Okay, great. And yes, and the writing sample as well, I think I've seen that it's also available before the test date. And right, so you have workshops on that as well. So
I do, yeah. And I've covered plenty on the Flex. I've got an FAQ. I've got a playlist. I have full-length videos in the course about it. Anything I haven't covered, though, feel free to reach out as you go forward with it.
No, thank you so much. I mean, that's really why I've been so happy with the course so far, just the past couple of weeks. Like, it really is so comprehensive. And again, the study schedule has been unbelievable. Again, for me and all my timing, that has been major. So yes, thank you so much. I'm really excited to continue and appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have you in the course. Reach out if you need anything going forward. I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time today.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.